Hello everyone and welcome to my clinical movement analysis video. I'm going to be analyzing um, the combined sports related events that we did at the start of the semester, um, including the 55-meter dash, the long jump, um, the baseball throw, and the soccer ball kick. I'm going to do my best to just provide the most important information to show proper form and improper form and show how you can excel in these areas. Right, so now we're taking a look at my video. So the 55-meter dash, um, um, muscular considerations. So the hamstrings are used for hip extension and knee flexion. The calves, which are the soleus and the gastrocnemius muscles, aid in plantar flexion. Um, the quads aid in hip flexion and knee extension, and then the abdominal muscles will provide stability throughout the run. Some skeletal considerations, um, the bones that are used when sprinting are femur, tibia, and the fibula, which those are the three ones that take the most impact, but you used most of your 206 bones to sprint. So the biggest thing I want to talk about is stride length and stride rate. So your stride length is not as important if you are like a pro athlete because you're most likely maxing out your stride length. There's just a point where you can't stride out anymore, but you can improve your stride rate. So the stride rate is a little more important than the stride length. They both increase velocity, but the stride rate can keep getting improved. Um, so another thing I wanted to add is A.V. Hill's velocity curve. So it basically states that you start at a velocity at 0 and it increases rapidly until it levels out, and then you decrease from there until the end of the race. So the person that's going to be the best sprinter is going to um, keep that maximal velocity and decrease the least throughout the race. Here is our uh, initial velocity and final velocity. So this is my initial velocity. Um, velocity is just distance over time. So this was a 55-meter dash. So it was 26.80 meters over 4.78 seconds, which is the first half of the race. So my initial velocity was 5.60 meters per second. And then my final velocity was just 26.80 meters over 3.72 seconds, which was 7.2 meters per second. So I actually, my velocity increased near the end, but that's probably just because I'm not running, I'm not coming out of the blocks um, or anything as fast as a real sprinter would and reaching my maximal velocity right away. All right, so next we're going to take a look at my long jump video, specifically my takeoff. So the long jump. Some muscular considerations. You use your glutes for extension and hyperextension, your quads for knee extension, and your gastrocnemius for plantar flexion. Some skeletal considerations. The femur and pelvic girdle form the ball and socket joint. The femur and tibia form a hinge joint, and the tibia and calcaneus form a hinge joint as well. Um, all of this aids in your ability to long jump. So acceleration. So the more acceleration in the run up, the further the horizontal velocity. So if your acceleration isn't as great, the jump will actually take away from your horizontal velocity. And now we're gonna move on to my baseball pitching.
All right, I'm ready. It's just a warm up.
All right, so the baseball pitch. Some skeletal considerations, or muscular considerations. The deltoids are for horizontal adduction and external rotation, and the triceps are what extend the elbow, and the abdominal muscles stabilize, and also the latissimus dorsi is involved. Skeletal considerations: the scapula, clavicle, and humerus articulate on the glenoid fossa, so for your ability to throw a baseball. The most important thing is external and internal rotation. So your external rotation should be about 180 degrees. Mine was about 155 degrees, so we could definitely improve on that. And my internal rotation was 67 degrees, and it's normally 45 degrees, so I could definitely work on that as well. So in order to improve that, I would just work on my strength and flexibility in the upper body. So strengthen the rotator cuffs and the active muscles and throwing the baseball, and then increase flexibility to increase my internal and external rotation. So now we're going to move on to the soccer kick. All right, so the soccer kick. Some muscular considerations. So the quads are used to extend the knee and flex the hip. And the hamstrings do the opposite, so they extend the hip and flex the knee. And they're used to decelerate your legs so you don't end up injuring yourself by over hyperextending. And your glutes rotate and extend the hip as well. Some skeletal considerations. Your femur and your pelvic girdle form a ball and socket joint, and the femur and the tibia form a hinge joint. And those aid in your ability to kick a soccer ball. So one of the biggest things in kicking a soccer ball is hip flexion and hip extension. So your hip flexion should be about 20 degrees. That's about max hip flexion. And mine was about 17 degrees. So could definitely work on that. And then hip extension can be about 90 degrees, and mine was about 71 degrees. So I could work on that as well. In order to improve my soccer kick, I would most likely just strengthen the quads, hamstrings, and glutes. So all those muscles that are aiding in my kicking abilities. And I would probably work on hip flexibility, specifically my hip flexor flexibility. And here are my references. And thank you guys.